Shadows of the Night, created by Princess Kemi Oshodi. Every young person will one day stand at a crossroads, a place where choices must be made, choices that can either build a future or destroy it, choices that can lead to purpose or pain, choices that can bring light or darkness. This is the story of 5 young men whose lives became connected from the first day they entered the university. They arrived on campus with dreams, ambition, and hope. Like millions of young people, they wanted success. They wanted to make their families proud. They wanted to build meaningful lives. Jacob and Michael came from wealthy homes. Their parents provided everything they needed to succeed. Bob came from a poor family. Though intelligent and determined, he carried the pain of poverty and the scars of constant bullying. Many times he felt unwanted and insignificant. The other 2 friends, David and Samuel, came from homes where faith, discipline, and integrity were highly valued. They believed that education was not only about earning a degree, but also about building character. The 5 young men quickly became close friends. They attended lectures together, shared meals together, laughed together, and dreamed together. But as time passed, life began to test them. Jacob and Michael became fascinated by a group of influential students on campus. These students appeared powerful. They had money. They commanded fear. They moved with confidence. Unknown to many students, they were members of secret cult groups operating within the university. Desiring acceptance, influence, and prestige, Jacob and Michael gradually became involved in cult activities. Meanwhile, Bob struggled with emotional wounds created by years of bullying and rejection. One day, some students introduced him to drugs. They promised relief from his pain. They promised confidence. They promised escape. What began as experimentation soon became addiction. The drugs changed his thinking, changed his behavior, changed his future. Before long, Bob also found himself entangled in the dangerous world of cultism. While their friends drifted toward darkness, David and Samuel chose a different path. They joined the campus fellowship. They participated in evangelism. They encouraged students to live responsible lives. They preached against cultism, violence, and substance abuse. But standing for what was right came at a price. Many students mocked them. Some called them fanatics. Others laughed at them and labeled them born-again boys. Even some of their closest friends ridiculed them. Yet David and Samuel remained steadfast. They understood that not every popular path leads to success. Then tragedy struck. A violent confrontation between rival cult groups resulted in the death of a student. The university erupted into chaos. Students protested. Buildings were vandalized. Fear spread across the campus. Security agencies launched investigations. The truth soon emerged. Several students were implicated in cult-related activities. Among them were Jacob, Michael, and Bob. Following disciplinary proceedings, all 3 young men were expelled from the university. In a single moment, years of dreams came crashing down. For Bob, the consequences were devastating. His parents could not afford another university. The opportunity they had struggled to provide was gone. His dreams appeared buried beneath addiction, regret, and failure. Jacob's wealthy parents desperately tried to rescue him from destruction. They arranged for him to continue his studies in Ghana. Michael's parents sent him to Europe, hoping distance would help him start afresh. But while locations changed, consequences remained. In Ghana, Jacob attempted to rebuild his life. But addiction had already gained control. His concentration vanished. His academic performance collapsed. His behavior became increasingly unstable. The drugs slowly destroyed his mind. The brilliant young man his parents once knew began losing touch with reality. Eventually, Jacob suffered a severe mental breakdown. His devastated parents spent enormous amounts seeking treatment. Doctors were consulted. Specialists were engaged. But the damage was profound. The young man who once dreamed of success eventually became a patient in a psychiatric facility. His story became a painful reminder that substance abuse can destroy not only a future but also the mind itself. Meanwhile, Michael embraced his second chance. In Europe, he focused on his studies. He graduated successfully. He secured an excellent job. His career flourished. His parents celebrated his transformation. Soon he met a beautiful, intelligent, and respectable young woman. They fell deeply in love. Wedding plans began. Families rejoiced. Invitations were distributed. Everything pointed toward a bright future. But Michael carried a secret. His fiancée knew nothing about the cult activities that had led to his expulsion years earlier. She knew him only as the successful and responsible man he had become. Unfortunately, some people never forgot the past. The family and associates of a rival cult member who died during the university. Clashes still carried bitterness and a desire for revenge. Then tragedy struck once again. Just one day before Michael's wedding, 24 hours before he was to stand before God and exchange marriage vows, he was ambushed and gunned down. His life ended instantly. The wedding became a funeral. Celebration became mourning. His parents were shattered. The son they had fought so hard to save was gone. His fiancée was devastated. Only after his death did she discover the dark chapter of his past. Though Michael had changed, the consequences of his former life had followed him into his future. His death became a painful lesson that violence often leaves scars that remain long after the event itself has passed. Years later, fate brought another unexpected encounter. One afternoon, David stopped at a filling station to buy fuel. As he waited beside his car, he noticed a familiar face among the attendants. The man immediately turned away, ashamed, embarrassed, trying not to be recognized. It was Bob, the same Bob who had once shared dreams with him in the university. The same Bob whose life had been destroyed by bad choices. David immediately recognized him. Instead of judging him, David called out his name. Bob slowly turned around, expecting ridicule, expecting rejection, expecting shame. Instead, David embraced him warmly. At that moment, Bob broke down in tears. For the first time in many years, someone saw beyond his failures. David listened as Bob shared his regrets, pain, and disappointments. Afterward, David contacted Samuel. By this time, David had become the chief executive officer of a leading telecommunications company. Samuel had become a highly successful entrepreneur whose businesses employed thousands of workers. Together, they decided not to abandon their friend. They chose restoration instead of condemnation. They chose compassion instead of criticism. Most importantly, they introduced Bob to Christ. In church, Bob encountered God in a personal way. With tears flowing down his face, he confessed his sins. He repented of cultism. He repented of substance abuse. He repented of the bitterness he had carried for years. Then he prayed, "Lord, if you change my life and give me another chance, I will never return to darkness. I will spend my life helping others avoid the mistakes I made. That prayer marked the beginning of a new chapter. David and Samuel stood beside him. They encouraged him, mentored him, supported him. With their help, Bob registered for JAMB once again. He studied with determination. This time he chose discipline over shortcuts, faith over fear, purpose over popularity. He passed his examinations and gained admission into the university. Years later, he graduated with outstanding results. The young man who had once lost everything had found a new beginning. Today, Bob is successful and financially comfortable. But his greatest achievement is not wealth, it is impact. He travels across schools, universities, churches, and communities as a motivational speaker. He educates young people about the dangers of cultism. He speaks against substance abuse. He campaigns against bullying. Thousands of lives have been transformed through his testimony. His pain became somebody else's warning. His mistakes became somebody else's lesson. His redemption became somebody else's hope. And whenever he stands before an audience, he says, "If God could give me a second chance, He can give anyone a second chance." The story of these 5 friends teaches a powerful truth. Jacob lost his mind. Michael lost his life. Bob almost lost everything but found redemption. David found purpose. Samuel found impact. Their lives remind us that every decision matters. Cultism promises power, but delivers destruction. Drugs promise escape, but create chains. Bad company promises acceptance, but often leads to regret. But discipline, faith, integrity, and good character lead to lasting success. The shadows of the night may appear attractive for a season, but darkness always demands a price. And no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always hope for those willing to turn toward the light. Because every shadow eventually gives way to dawn, and every life can be transformed by the power of a second chance. The End. Shadows of the Night, created by Princess Kemi Oshodi.